Hello, Saints. You know, we've been studying the three angels' messages this quarter, and I wanted to get to the part that's after the message. You know that after the three angels' message is given, there's no more message. That's it. That's the last thing that's given. In fact, the transition verse there, in verse 13 of chapter 14, reads, "Then I heard a voice from heaven saying to me, Write, Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works follow them." It's the finish. And now rest, and wait till Jesus comes. This is it. There is no more message to be given. This is how important this message is. And then what happens after is the second coming. Verse 14. "Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud sat one like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle." Here's the appearance of Christ. Right here in the book of Revelation, just go back to chapter 6. And then chapter 6, there in the sixth seal, we see this picture where they're looking up, and they see the second coming. They see what's happening here in chapter 14, verse 14. There in the sixth seal, let me get to if I can get the page turned. It says, "I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great In chapter 6, verse 12, he writes, "I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth as a fig tree drops its late figs when it's shaken by a mighty wind. And then the sky receded like a scroll when it was rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand?" They're seeing the same picture of Jesus coming on the clouds of heaven. This is right out of the book of Daniel. You go back here to Daniel chapter 7, and we see after the four beasts and after the judgment of the little horn, there in chapter 7, beginning in verse 13, he says, Daniel writes, "I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. He came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And then to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples and nations and languages should serve him." So what we see here is the same picture. This is where everything in Revelation is kind of drawing from this one particular verse, where Christ comes in the clouds of heaven. And what we see is Jesus, one like the Son of Man, coming to the Ancient of Days, to the Father, there to receive the kingdom and of dominion. And he will reign, it says. And he will reign that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. What he does is he turns around and gives the kingdom back to the saints, the ones who originally lost it when Adam and Eve sinned. But here we see, is the conclusion of the whole matter. This is the end point of the three angels' messages as we prepare people for the coming of Christ. This isn't just a message to be given among other messages. This is the last message that goes out into the world, and then Christ comes. And what we want to do with this message is by sharing it with others, we enlarge that kingdom. That's what we want to do. We don't want people to be lost. We don't want people to have to suffer. We want to bring them in, harvest them while we can. You and I are part of that. It's a great privilege to give the three angels messages. It's not something for the pastors and the elders and whatnot. It's for everybody, even children, as we prepare for the coming of Christ. Blessings.